Hey guys, this is Chodaros from Chodaros Bling, and we have a special design to share with you today. This is the Bling Out the Bullies bracelet. So, how do you put the two words bullies and bling together to honor the name? It just wasn't an easy decision. So, what I decided to do was take it and bling it. So, I can understand why one would call me the Bling Queen because it's covered. So I figured, even though it's kind of elegant looking, that if you reached in your imagination and thought, what if I could use this bracelet to shine on a bully and, you know, shine their eyes out for making fun. So here's the back, and it is made on a 7 pin bar setup. But I wanted to show you quickly the bling that I used. These jump rings, okay, this is the rule I use. The jump rings that you purchase, if you have options, if you purchase, these are 4mm jump rings, or 6, I'm sorry, maybe 6mm, but they're tinier because I usually use 10mm. But if you can see, I coupled that with a silicone band, and it makes them stay on there quite nicely. And then the same for the center chain. It is the same process of adding the jump rings. So on the perimeter, you're going to be doing a jump ring, beaded band, jump ring, beaded band. And in the end, it kind of sticks up. So I really like that effect. So I just had to make sure that I was able to move this around a little bit for you, because it's so hard to capture on video the magnificent beauty of a design. Okay, so meaning that every other band on the perimeter is going to be a beaded band. Because I was so into wanting to make it bling, I had these two beads here. You know those string accessories that hang down for glasses that women would wear? Excuse me, I actually found one of those strings and they were made out of these beads. So I got them for like $3. So they're like almost the same size as a 6/0 seed bead, but they have a very small hole. Okay? And so the middle one is a dotted rondelle spacer. So you want to make sure that you put everything in the middle of your band. And I have to do a count off. There's a ton of bling and bling and, oh, I forgot what I was going to say. But regardless, now let's move on to the center beads. These are 6mm glass beads. Okay, so actually these, I've had these for a very long time. When I go to Michael's, they have a little insert, and it is just for finished bracelets. So typically the ones that I get, where I can get the rhinestones, are this kind of a bracelet. Alright, enough jibber jattering. So let's get started and let's grab our supplies. Okay, I already have my left side done, so just kind of leave that out of the picture for a second. But it is this type of a setup. So your first and last peg are at the same height. We go down 1 pin, and you have the second and third, and then the 5th and 6th. And then right in the center is your lowest point. And you want to make sure you have a good loom setup. It's not a tight knit bracelet, but still, we all know what it's kind of like to have something fall apart like that. So I wanted to have one side done because just to save some time. It's not anything difficult. It's just creating the perimeter, and we're just going to add some bling to the bands. So the bling that I chose, because it's Bling Out the Bullies, don't particularly wanted it to be too, yeah, I did want to make it really blingy, so it's shiny. These two beads are not spacer beads, but they are the same size of like a 6/0 spacer bead with a tinier inset hole. I just wanted to use them because they were sparkly. It's what I had. My center one is a rounded, like dotted rondelle spacer. I always try to say, make sure that you use beads that slide easily on your bands because you're going to be moving them in the end whenever we go to fix it up after we take it off the loom. So anytime, in case some of you don't know, anytime you want to add your bling to your bands, take it off or move it around, pull it as much as you can, and it thins the band out, and then you're able to kind of move it a little bit. So that is going to be on every other peg, and then on the opposite peg I'm going to be placing a 6mm jump ring. So easy enough to put on the band. You want to watch your size of your jump ring with the size or type of band that you're using. So this is a silicone band, so it's thinner, or it's thicker than a opaque or jelly. And with this size jump ring, I can go like this and it doesn't fall off. So the thicker the band, and with like that size of a jump ring, you're going to have it stay in place in your design. All right, so to start off, we're just going to lay bands on this front row here. So we place this band in the center for close up, and then as we typically do, we're just going to take the bands in order out onto the end pin bar. And I have to lift this one up because I need it to be on top. So you go over there. I'm just going to set that there, and we're going to work on this side. Okay? And then you want to do the same thing on the right. Like that. So we're going to start out with a jump ring on the band because that's what I started out with over here. So you want to make sure that the whole way up your loom that you are in line with what you did on the opposite side when it comes to that point. So after you add that one, we're going to add just our beaded band. And just back and forth, back and forth. One jump ring band, one beaded band. And that's the process all the way up the loom. Okay, so it's pretty standard, and when you're finished placing those bands, I'm going to show you how we're going to close it up at the end. So I stopped at the second to the last peg, and I'm using 2 looms. It would still look the same as if you use 1 loom. So I'm just going to take it from this last peg and take it in, and then straight across, and then down. So that is pretty much the exact what we did in the beginning of our bracelet. Okay, and then obviously make sure that we stop at the second to the last peg on this side, and then you do, you know, your last band would be there, and then you would do the same. You would take it in and over. Okay, so I am confident that we can go ahead and go off camera and finish adding those bands. And this, again, this saves time in the tutorial for looping, and we want to add more time to looping because we need to loop through these jump rings. We have a lot of those to do. Okay, so let's finish up our perimeters and we'll meet back here. All right, so we just finished adding our bling bands to the perimeter, and we have 2 steps we're going to do, and then we're going to go on our own because they're pretty easy. We are going to add a band going from this peg out like that, and we're going to start on the second going out because we already have our border acting the same, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side, and we're going to do that all the way up the loom. Just a plain band going out. Like that. Okay. And then after we are finished placing those bands to the end of our loom, we're just simply going to add 2 more, excuse me, 2 more single chains. So we're going to start on at the end and go straight up like that. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. So we start at the end and we're going to go straight up. Okay, so again, I apologize. I just want to save time for the looping process, so I'm just doing a little bit just to show you how to start it, and we can go ahead and add the rest of those bands, and then we're going to meet back to add our center bands that are going to have the jump rings on it. So let's finish and we'll see you back in a sec. All right, we are making some progress here. Now we're going to add a single chain up the center with a jump ring on each band. So I'm going to use this glitter white and add a jump ring. It's going to take, it's a bit tedious because you have to add the jump ring and then place the band, so it doesn't go as quickly as it does when we're just doing a single chain without bling. But the end result is definitely worth it. Turn it and you can see the rings. So it is every band has a jump ring. And to me, okay, so let me show you an example here. So this jump ring, all jump rings are split, okay, because you can open them up and add a ring inside of it doing chainmail and such. So I don't want to use this ring, or I need to use my tools to close that up better because I am afraid that the band may slip out of that hole just like that. So kind of want to make sure when you are using your rings that they are closed securely, because it is no different than breaking a band if your band comes out of the jump ring. It's the same outcome as if your band broke. So jewelry tools, also known as pliers or a vise, anything that you have that you can close up your jump ring. So if you are under 18, be sure to have your parents' permission and help. So that's that. I think we're good to go on our own and finish it all the way up into our last band in the center up there. Okay, then after that, we're going to come back and we're going to add the beads. So let's finish that up first. All right, so we have a single chain up the center with a jump ring on each band. So we actually have 2 more steps until we place our beaded bands. So we're going to do 2 steps as we did earlier. We're going to start with a band that is going from this peg here down, and then up, and then down, and then up. So we're going to make a W. Okay, so starting on the left here, go down. Oh, that's it's a different type of band. Okay, and then we go to the center peg there, and then we go down from the center peg, and then we finish by going up like that. Okay, so that is your W. And again, we finish this step off by just repeating this pattern the whole way up the bracelet, and it is not connected to each other, so which means when you're putting your bands on, you're going to have a space in between. There's no connection, W's and then start a new W. They don't overlap, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And just keep doing that. So here's a question for you. What reason would one of Loomer from Norway's children have to be excited that this is a W? That made sense. Why would one of Loomer from Norway's children be so happy that this is in the shape of a W? Let's see which of you guys are loyal Loomers to us. All right, so again, I keep having these different type of bands in with my metallics. Okay, so again, that step continues the whole way up, and then after you are completely finished with adding these W's, we are going to place again 2 more single chains on the 3rd and 5th pin bars. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the color that you use here is going to be the color that is going to surround your beads. So because mine's like pizzow blingy, maybe soften it up a tad. I'm going to add the glitter white bands. So simple as this, just adding your single chain on top of your W's. Just like that. Okay, so 2 steps in 1. We'll make our W's all the way to the end, and then we'll come back and then we'll add 2 single chains up on these 2 pin bars, and then I promise you we're going to add some bling. Okay, so we'll meet back here in a sec. All right, now we can finally add our bling. So the great part of this bracelet is that we can use clear jelly bands to put our bling on. Woohoo! If you know me, that's the way to go. You're always safe if you use jelly bands. So these are, I think, between 6 and 8 millimeter. It'll be in the description box below. We're going to make sure that we start on this peg here, and we're going to add a beaded band going from here to the center and from the center to here. Okay, so you just want to take one end of your beaded band and we're adding it to this peg, and then it is just a little bit of a stretch, and then we finish on the center peg. So always the rule of thumb, make sure that your bead is not so tight on your band that you cannot slide it, because you kind of want that bead to be right in the middle of your single chain. Okay, so like this one right here. This one was already used. I already loomed it, took it apart, and that's the result. I can't put it on the loom like this, so I'm going to stretch it and then put it in the middle. And that way, I'd rather do it like that than have to move it when it's on my loom, because I have a better chance of breaking that band sliding it when it's already in place. Okay? So we go up a peg and we do the same. So we start out on the left, bring it to the center, and then we grab our next one, make sure your bling is in the middle, and then we're coming from the right peg to the center. Okay, so I would suggest, if you're going to start adding the left first and then the right, just to continue the same pattern the whole way up. So I started on my left, so every time I will start on the left. See, my bead is not in the middle, just slide it just a tad. So these bands will not be loomed. Loomer from Norway, I'm an old school blinger. I started the bling, right? So I started blinging. I never loomed, I guess you could say, the bling band whenever I would do other people's designs and add the bling. I just added it separately and then loomed the bracelet the way it was designed. And Loomer from Norway does a lot of that as well. Now, my second in charge, my #1 artisan loom, which has started right after I did blinging, and she's great with beads. She has actually taught me a great deal, because she'll loom her beaded bands. So I got to learn finally. My gosh, it only took her like 10 years to get her tutorials out. Like, what the? I like to play with her, but she's, I will admit, she is my favorite loomer. She's one of my best buddies on Instagram. And it's just really nice to learn the different techniques that everybody, like Loomer from Norway and Artisan Loom and MS Loom. It's so nice that I didn't design this, guys. I just get to put a tutorial out. I get to sit back. It's so super awesome. All right, I think you guys got the point, and you let me talk for a couple seconds, so thank you. All right, so let's continue doing that until we're at the end. And if I'm not mistaken, we will start looming after that. Alrighty, so if I can somewhat show you, this is what your loom should look like. This is probably the most bling I have ever placed on a loom, surprising enough. So we just have one last band to add, and that band will be right here in the center, and it's just a cap band. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with going one to each side. Okay, so we go in here and we're going to loom these two bands out. So usually we loom the first bands on top under that cap band, but in this case we want to loom these bottom bands. So you have to reach in and grab those bottom bands, and it's going to pull on these bands out here, but that is okay. Okay, so now this band will act as the cap band for these two rows. And our next step will be to simply loom up the single chain on these two rows. So we'll start over on this one. That one will be just a tad loose. And remember, your bling band falls on top of that single chain. So when you loop it, you're still okay if it's kind of hidden in there or anything. It doesn't. As long as your bling is sitting in the middle of that row, you're in good shape. So, traditional looping. See, oh, I'm sorry, hopefully you can see. On this one here, I'm just going to put this back and start fresh. This one here was crooked, so I have to make sure. I'd like to have it in the middle because this is the first step to making sure that those beads are they're going to stay in place. And remember when we placed this color band, I had said that that was the one that was going to, so, oh, look, or my next band, my next bead is the same. That this band here wraps around your bead. So whatever color you wanted to make that. Okay? So when we pull it off the loom, that's whenever you can adjust if need be. Never ever adjust while it's on the loom. More likely going to break a band and also have to readjust after you take it off. Okay? And so, same thing on this side. We're just simply looping the top band up back to itself. Yikes, I keep grabbing the two. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish that up to the end. Make sure that you press all of those bands down, and then we'll meet back up here for our next step. Okay, so our next step will be to loom out the W bands that we placed, which now have become M bands. bands. So that's the bands going from here to here, down to the center, up from the center, and then back down. So, but first we need to loom over these border bands in the front so they can act as our cap band, like that. So what we're going to do is loom them down. So we place them in a W shape, but now we're going to loom them separately back down to themselves. So we want to start in this pin. This one's the first one on top, so we can take this one and bring it down like that. Go back in that pin and bring this one to the center. And then we want to go into this pin and bring this band back to the center. And then last, back into this pin and bring this one down. So when we do the next one here, you'll see how it's going to open the space up so you can see your beads. So we start up in this pin and bring it back down, go back in that pin and bring it to the center, and start back into this one here, going to the center, and then back down. So we have a little bit of an opening airway. You can see your bead now. So again, we start out up here, down, center, center, and then down. So in the process, you can also see how we are not looming the bling bands, that everything gets loomed around them. Okay, do one more because we have some challenging looming coming up. Okay, so let's go ahead, finish that up, and then prepare yourself because we have a challenge coming up after that. Alright, so our next step is to loom up the center chain with the jump rings on them. So if you have made Loomer from Norway's Now and Forever bracelet, which you can find on my channel, then you will be familiar with how we're going to loom this. If not, I'm going to try my best to zoom in so you can see how it's done. So our goal is to do the exact step as we normally do when we're looming up a chain, which is to grab the band out of that peg and bring it forward. But the only difference is we have to take it through that jump ring before we reattach. Okay, so I'm just going to try to do this from the side, which is going to be a challenge just to grab that band. So if I can, let me grab this band first. So again, it's the center band that we're looking for. And that's not it. I promise I will be out of your face as soon as I can get that bend. Alright, now that I got it, I'm going to turn my loom so you can hopefully see better. Okay, so this one's a bit different because it already has some bands looped onto it, and so it's not going to be a perfect teardrop. But we want to take that one and we just want to hold it with our fingers. And then my loom hook is just a tad too big to go into my jump ring, but I'm going to attempt it just because I like the hook part of it and it seems to grab better, but I don't think I'll be able to do it. So I'm going to try a smaller hook here. Okay, so just you're going to take your hook and it's going towards you through the jump ring that way. And then our goal is to bring it up through that jump ring enough where we can put the bands that are in our fingers onto the hook. And now all we need to do is slide that through the jump ring and then attach like that. So all that does is it makes sure that it puts that jump ring on the outside of the bands. If we loomed it regularly, we would have half the band in the jump ring and half out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn it this way and show you from this angle if it's any better, but this will be how it's going to be the whole way up. There isn't any bands that are catching on this one, so again we're going to go down into side and grab that band and pull it forward. Okay, now I'm left-handed, so I guess you can leave it, you can let it go, and then just stick your hook up through and grab that band. It looks like I'm having a hard time because I'm trying to make sure I do it where you guys can see it. It's so super not hard. Okay, so once it's on your hook, slide it through and then attach. Okay, so then you can kind of push that up if you like. And I'm only switching hooks for the tutorial. Typically, I could get into my loom with my loom hook if I kind of move it around, but I need to be quite stationary to film. All right, again, going down and grabbing that band up and then going through. Let's see if I can do it with my loom hook. Yeah, it's just easier with this one. Okay, so through your jump ring to grab this band and then pull it through the jump ring and attach. Mine got a little bit crooked. There we go. Okay, so it's really not difficult. I probably make it look a little bit difficult, but as I mentioned, I'm just trying to make sure that you guys are seeing what I'm doing. Okay, so we grabbed it, going through the jump ring, just enough to grab the band and pull it back through and onto the bag. So after a few, you'll start getting into a little bit of a routine, and you'll be able to probably grab it a little bit faster. So just do one more. It's really the only band left on the peg. So I'm just going to pull it up a little bit this time. I'm not going to pull it too much, and that way it still keeps the band a little bit loose so I can get through my jump ring. And then attach. And pull through. And ta-da! I'm not a fan of these hooks because there is no hook. Alright, so that is what your loom should look like. In the end result, your jump ring is around your band. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on that, and after that we'll move on to our next step. Okay, so we have our single chain blinged and loomed up. Looks awesome. Okay, So our next step is we're going to take the single chains on the second, I'm going to count, and sixth pin bars, and we're going to loom them to the side. So we're going to go in this peg and we're going to grab that band. So it should go forward, but we're going to take it over to the left, like that. Okay, so then we'll go under, grab the band again, these bands are the thick white bands, and then we pull it over to the left. So there is one band that's on top of it, and that is the diagonal band. Whoops. But we will grab the diagonal band. Was that right there? Yes. Oh, I did do it right. And the next step is to grab the diagonal. Okay? So, not too difficult. We're just taking it to the side instead of forward. So, the last band on this peg, as I mentioned, is the diagonal. So when we go in to grab that as the next step, it will lock in all of those bands. Okay, so it's going to start pulling your loom together. So you want to make sure that you have your base is nice and tight. Push down on it, make sure that it isn't going anywhere. So again, we want to start in this peg. And grab that. Oops, I thought I was going to grab two. Okay, so we grab that band. Instead of going forward, we're going over to the right. Go underneath those bands, grab it, and take it to the right. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on that, and then we will come back to loom out our diagonal bands. All right, we are getting close to the end. We have all of those bands on those two pin bars loomed out, and our next step is to loom out the diagonals. So they're going to go to the end pin bar. So we're going to go on the inside part and take it out. Okay, so as I mentioned before, now everything is loomed from the inside out on this bracelet. So we have our last two steps are closing up the bands. So going into this peg and grabbing that band is finalizing and making sure all of these bands are attached. And then after we do this step, all we have left is our perimeter, which as usual closes up our bracelet. So pretty simple, straightforward. Then we come over to this side. So this would be a good time to take a good look over your loom. So we'll see if I can show you this way. No, what I do is I look down, make sure that there are no bands on the bottom of your pegs, and that way you make sure that you have grabbed everything. If you should happen to see a band laying that you forgot to loom, sometimes before we are finished closing the bracelet up, we can kind of finagle the band over to an area such as like this peg or something where you still can loom it over. It may not look exactly the same, but at least it's better than having to redo the entire bracelet. Alrighty, so let's finish that to the end of the loom, and then finally we will loom out our border bands, and we will be able to reveal our beautiful bracelet. All right, all right, all right. We are on the perimeter bands. So we're getting ready to close this baby up. So don't forget, we have this band left to loom out first. So let's grab that and loom it over. And then this one over. All right, so we are set. Okay, I did not mention it, but you're going to have to loom through your jump rings again. But they're every other one, and we know how to do it now, so it's not going to be difficult, right? So first band is plain on my loom because I ran out of jump rings. Alright, so we're going to grab the bottom band, and I'm just going to pull it up enough where I can hold it and try to have it so my fingers aren't in the way. Yeah, right, huh? And then when I was off camera, I zipped through. It's like I get on camera and it's, there we go. So same as we did for the center chain, just bringing it straight forward, and it puts that jump ring on the outside. And then our next band is just beaded, so we just want to grab it and pull it forward. So mine has a little bit of tension, so I'm going to take my hook in and just turn it a little bit. I relieved it. So again, stick your hook in. Okay, so that's it. This is what we are doing the rest of the bracelet. If you use 10mm jump rings or 6, whichever, it'll be easier to stick your rainbow and hook through. I probably didn't get it. Did I get it? Well, I got like everything but probably. Yeah, it's a challenge with the rainbow loom hook, but alright. So I think we got the hang of it. So we're going to do the same thing on the left side, and I'll meet you up at the end of the loom, and we're going to take it off. Alright, let's close up our bracelet, and yes, I have already taken mine off the loom to save time for the tutorial, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that we need to take these bands in to the center peg on both sides. Excuse me. And I am so super excited. So when you go to take it off the loom, okay, unless you want a visit from me on your front doorstep, you're gonna take it off peg by peg. Be kind to the design and never pull again. That's something we did in the beginning, and we're not doing that anymore. So just always make sure you're using your hook, avoiding your fingernails, and just carefully raising the bands off, because you have so much work put into this and a ton of bling. Okay, so I need to grab my C-clip. And I don't think I put a starter band on there this time. It's amazing. So I need to add that band. So I'm going to put my hook through and then grab it, bring it up through, and add my C-clip. I am so excited to look at this because I did not put forth effort into picking the bling and the bands like I normally do. I just wanted to get it out there because of my technical difficulties, and I have a feeling that it's going to be quite beautiful. Ta-da! Wow. Will you take a look at that? Oh my dear Lord. Oh, obviously I have some bands and I have to move all of these in the center, but oh my goodness, this is absolutely gorgeous, and I am 100% confident that this will bling out the Bullies. So I thank you so much for tuning in again, and please give Loomer from Norway a huge shout out and follow her for taking the time to make a design and naming it after something that is so important to all of us. So remember, nobody likes a bully. Everybody likes their own credit, and remember how it feels when somebody says something that isn't very kind to you, and you want to make others feel as you would want to be felt, treated. So, yay! Thank you for watching. Now I gotta go do the beginning of the tutorial. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.